Hello everybody, we are back today talking about the 2023 Montreal Alouettes and what I think this team will be for this season. So before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new. If not, no big deal. So the first talking point here is, will this be a run-heavy team? The Owls finished 7th in the carries category last year for the CFL, and they did end up acquiring Cody Fajardo and Caleb Evans. Those are two quarterbacks that finished first and second for rushes by QBs in 2022. You know, Evans is a guy that likes to run. Fajardo is a guy that likes to run. Evans also was thrust into a third down kind of scenario as things kind of got played around with at times with Ottawa last year. So you expect him to run. And for Fajardo, he's a guy that ended up having 226 rushing attempts over his last 3 seasons. That's about 4.7 per game. So safe to say more than some other quarterbacks. And they also have a very deep group of running backs. You have William Stanback. I don't know if you want to say the best running back in the CFL, considering last year was a down year for him, but a guy that is up there for that top tier status when he's healthy. Then you have Walt Fletcher, who impressed, and then Jeshurun Antwi as well. That's 3 guys right there that I would say could pose a threat when they have the ball. Stanback's looking to reestablish himself as one of the game's best running backs. After I said again, he had a down year, and I think for him there's a lot of motivation to get back there, especially with Kadeem Carey having such a good year, and Carey also saying that he has lofty expectations for himself this season. Stanback probably wants to say, hey, you know, you're really good, but you're probably the second best back in the league. And one thing that I will say for the Alouettes, it kind of points to them possibly being a run-heavy team this year, is that in Jason Moss's 4 seasons as the head coach of Edmonton, back from 2016 through 19, they never finished lower than 4th for carries attempts in the CFL. So one year they finished 1st, another year they finished 2nd, the other 2 years they finished 4th. They're a team that did run the ball more than every other team, or I should say they were a team that ran the ball more than most teams in the league. So we will see, because they might want to also run 2 if games are close or in their position to lead and they don't want to turn the ball over. So I do think that this team could be one of the more run-heavy teams in the league this year, especially if they're in a situation where they're winning games. The second thing here is, can the defense be better than average? Last year, the Alouettes weren't good or bad necessarily in a lot of categories defensively, but likely need to improve this year. The Owls went 9-9 last season, but we're a team that could get lit up from time to time. The defense has plenty of veteran guys that could be good for them and have the potential to have a strong year, but they're going to have to force more interceptions than they did last year. They ended up having just 14 last year. One thing that they did do, they had 18 fumble recoveries. They did force, some fumbles, and if they can continue to recover fumbles, that's good news for them. But forcing more interceptions is also going to be big. This defense really is in a spot where they probably need to perform, especially if they are in a spot where, they need some stops. I think last year they took some bad penalties, and I think there are certain players that took some bad penalties at some unfortunate times. That's going to have to be cleaned up this year if they want to get back to the playoffs. And the third talking point here is this receiving core going to be boom or bust? So the Alouettes lost Lewis, that stinks, and then they lost other talent that had been around for a while. Of course, Jake Wieneke is gone, and now they were forced to retool. They end up doing something that's kind of interesting here in the fact that they bring in Greg Ellingson. I'm curious to see if Ellingson is still good or not. What do I mean by that? I don't exactly think that Ellingson is a bad receiver. In fact, I think he is pretty good when healthy. The problem is he's battled injuries and he is 34 years old. So if he's not on the field, and that is a consistent thing, that could be just a loss of a big name receiver. But if he is on the field and he's not nagged by injuries, he'll be a guy that will probably get targeted a lot. He finished 17th in the league for targets per game last year, so that's big. If he's hurt, big blow for them. Good news is there's other guys like Tyson Philpott, and Julian Grant is another guy that comes to mind as some hope for this group, and those are guys that I do feel like could have some breakout years this season. Biggest thing here, though, is the 8-ball, and that is, or I guess I should say Montreal not getting behind the 8-ball with Reggie White. He ended up being a big part of the team last year. He did have a season-ending injury, I believe it was to his knee, and that is concerning, especially trying to come back from that, meaning, theoretically, that we could be looking at Ellingson and Reggie White Jr. not being in the lineup consistently. then you say that the receiving depth here is paper thin, and that is a problem for Montreal should they lose those two guys. And I do think for Ellingson, he'll probably be in and out of the lineup this year, unfortunately, just with the age and the injuries from what we've seen recently. My final thoughts for the Montreal Alouettes are they are a team that has the potential to make the playoffs, because I do think that the East is open, but I also do have low expectations for them. I could see them being the worst team in the league this year. Again, the receiving depth is a bit of a concern, and I do wonder a bit with Moss and Fajardo. You know, we kind of saw some things with them being together in Saskatchewan that didn't work out. Now, the offensive line could be part of it, and I do think that Fajardo is better than some people view him as, but Moss is a guy that if bad habits kind of come back and they're not able to click on the deep ball, that could be a problem. And I don't exactly know if they're going to be able to run the ball the way they want to if they're down by a certain amount of points in a game. Ideally, you would like to give William Stanback a lot of carries. You would like to get, I think it was Fletcher that was more of the receiving back wise, so you would like to get him out in some space for him to catch the ball. You would look for Answe to get some carries as well and to be able to kind of move things progressively, kill some time off the clock, and get some points. But I don't exactly know if that's going to be the case consistently throughout games. Also, the defense probably is going to have to play better in general if they are going to gel for the offense, and they need time to gel, I guess I should say. So I think the defense not stepping up could be an issue, especially if the offense struggles to provide. I don't think they go 9-9 this year. I do think that they're probably going to have a losing record. Does that mean that they're not good enough to get in the playoffs? You know, that's kind of up in the air right now, but I do think that this season will probably be kind of frustrating for Montreal. Even though I look at this team and I say they've got a lot of pieces that I like, there's some other teams that I would say probably should do better, have more talent, and I think at the end of the day are better suited to withstand injuries. But we'll see. What are your thoughts for the Montreal Alouettes this season? Will they be the league's worst team? Will they have a winning record? Will they make the playoffs? Will they have a playoff appearance without a winning record? Those are all really good things that I'd love to hear you guys talk about, and leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.